are making windfall profits of about 18%, and some of these profits should be spent on improving oversight and care. And on the left side, again, we see some of the opponents to Prop 29. And those opposing Prop 29 say that it would increase dialysis treatment costs by hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Nearly half of the clinics in the state might become financially unsustainable and forced to close. Requiring on-site clinicians is unnecessary for patient safety. Only 8 states have similar requirements, and there is no evidence that these staffing requirements have improved care. Data from Medicare shows that California has lower infection rates than states with stricter staffing requirements. Nurses and other technicians are adequately trained to administer dialysis and respond to special needs. This proposition could result in a shortage of doctors in other necessary areas of care. And so now I've got the campaign contribution slide up, so I'll let you look at that for a moment. All right, and I'm going to move on to the next slide. And so a yes vote would mean that clinics would be required to have licensed medical staff on site during patient treatment hours. Voting no means that clinics would not be required to have identified medical staff on site during patient treatment hours. All right, and back to Mandy.
Okay, we're moving along here. So Prop 30 would create a new tax on any individual's income of more than $2 million per year. It would use this money to increase electric car usage and manage wildfires. This is an initiative statute. Supporters gathered signatures at a cost of about $13.50 per signature. California, so this is the background provided by the proponents of this proposition. California is experiencing severe drought with increasing wildfires and poor air quality. Gas-powered cars and wildfire smoke are 2 of the largest sources of greenhouse gases in the state. By the way, GHG on the slide refers to greenhouse gases. Both contribute to poor air quality. Costs for wildfire suppression and prevention are increasing as these fires become more catastrophic. The state government has taken several steps to address greenhouse gas levels and air quality. A state law was passed requiring California to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions levels to 40% below what they were in 1990. And this has to happen by 2030. State law also requires ride-sharing companies such as Lyft and Uber to have 90% of their drivers using zero-emission vehicles, or ZEVs, by 2030. Also on August 25th this year, the governor announced a plan requiring 100% of new vehicles sold must be ZEVs by 2035. Now, the state recently committed to spending $10 billion over the next 5 years on ZEVs, and is currently spending between $2 and $4 billion annually on wildfire response. Revenues from Prop 30, if this passes, would supplement those funds that are already allocated to these programs. So Prop 30 proposes an increase of 1.75% in the income tax, the California state income tax, on personal incomes above $2 million. The current income marginal tax rate on high income, so people who make roughly over $1 million, is 13.3%. If Proposition 30 passes, that rate would increase to 15.05% on personal taxable income over $2 million. The tax increase would end on July 1st, 2043, or if earlier, if California greenhouse gas emissions registered 80% below what they were in 1990 for 3 years in a row. So funds from the proposition will be allocated as follows. 45% would go to promoting purchase of zero-emission vehicles, for example, by providing subsidies and rebates. 35% would go to increasing availability of electric charging stations. 20% would go to helping wildfire suppression and prevention. Proposition 30 also stipulates that at least 50% of the funds allocated for ZEVs and zero emission vehicle charging must benefit primarily low income and disadvantaged communities. It also requires that CAL FIRE's top priority must be to hire and train additional firefighters. The fiscal impact would be as follows. Prop 30 would generate about somewhere between 2.8 to 4 billion for ZEVs, so cars and charging stations, and 700 million to 1 billion for wildfire response. These revenues could increase over time. So who's supporting this? You can see on the left here who's supporting it. And the supporting it say that existing programs are insufficient to address California's poor air quality. They say more must be done to make electric vehicles more affordable and to prevent catastrophic wildfires. They claim that there will be strict accountability to ensure that these funds are spent as intended. And many environments say that LIFT's involvement is insignificant compared to the threat we face with climate disasters, and we'll come to why that's referred to in a minute. Supporters describe the proposition as a Robin Hood Act that will help people without the means to buy an electric car. And you can see that refers, yeah, go ahead, that's fine. The opponents, if we, you can see here, one thing I did want to point out, and it's a little confusing, is that the Democratic Party, for this California State Democratic Party, is in support of this proposition, but Governor Newsom is against it. And that's a little confusing when you look at the two slides, but that is the case. Now, opponents say that California is already investing more than 50 billion in climate issues, including the 10 billion I mentioned before, that's for zero emission vehicles. And that if more money is needed, it can be paid for from the state's budget surplus. Opponents also say that there's no guarantee that Prop 30 will make zero emission vehicles affordable for most Californians. They also say that Prop 30 locks in money from income taxes to special interests, keeping it away from school funding. And they claim that Prop 30 is LIFT's attempt to get taxpayers to help foot the bill for the law that requires their fleet to be 90% electric. So here you can see the campaign contributions for and against. So I'll give you a minute to look at that. And if we move on, if we summarize, so guest vote means that you would support taxpayers who make over 2 million would pay an additional 1.75% on personal income to support the ZEV programs and wildfire prevention. No means there would be no change to taxes on personal income above 2 million. Okay, back to Dottie.
All right. Prop 31 would ban the sale of flavored tobacco products by allowing the state's new law to go into effect. This is a referendum which came to the ballot after opponents of the legislature's action gathered signature at a cost of 21.98 cents per signature. In August of 2020, Senate Bill 793 was signed into law with 84 of 89 Democrats and a quarter of Republicans supporting it. It prohibits in-store retailers and vending machines from possessing flavored tobacco products with the intent to sell. The legislative ban includes flavored juices, which can be used to vape, menthol cigarettes, chewing tobacco, and flavored cigarillos, but it excludes hookah and premium cigars. The law was not implemented due to this referendum. In 2009, federal law banned cigarettes with non-tobacco flavors except menthol except for menthol. State and local governments regulate sales and use of tobacco and can mandate stricter rules than the federal government. Right now, about 1/3 of Californians live in areas with rules banning certain sales of flavored tobacco products, most of which include a ban on menthol cigarettes. Prop 31 is a referendum. It asks the voters to approve a law already passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. It is put on the ballot if enough signatures are gathered. The law at issue cannot be enforced until the election is held. Your vote on this proposition will affirm or reject this law. The fiscal impact of this law, not quite clear cut. It may reduce state tobacco tax revenue by up to $100 million a year due to loss of revenue from sales of these products. The size of this revenue loss depends on whether smokers would switch from flavored to non-flavored tobacco products, therefore having little effect on tobacco tax revenue. Also, it may have an effect on costs the state pays for healthcare, since state and local governments cover some cost for their employees and qualifying low-income residents. If Prop 31 passes and leads to reduced tobacco use, healthcare costs could be lower due to better health. The net change in state and local government healthcare costs is uncertain. And on the left side of the screen, you'll see the supporters. And supporters say that flavored tobacco is a gateway to addiction among children. They say that Big Tobacco has spent millions of dollars to ensure California retailers could keep selling candy-flavored products to children. More than 2 million middle and high school students in the United States now use e-cigarettes, many because of the flavors. 4 out of 5 young people who have used tobacco start with a flavored product. On the left side, you'll see some of the opponents. Actually, there's just one listed, but when we get to the money slide, you'll see some of the other ones. But the opponents say the law is unfair, since lawmakers have exempted hookah tobacco, expensive cigars, and flavored pipe tobacco from the prohibition. Prop 31 will hurt small businesses and jobs as products are pushed from licensed retailers to an underground market and will lead to increased youth access, crime, and other social concerns. They point to the loss of valuable tax revenue. All right, so here's the money supply slide, and over on the left are the supporters, on the right are the opponents. And I'll hold that up there for a moment. All right, so this one, this is one of those votes where the yes and the no might not mean what you think it means. so it's pretty important to read this slide to really understand what a yes vote means. So that yes means stores and vending machines could not sell most flavored tobacco products and enhancers. A no vote means stores and vending machines could continue to sell flavored tobacco products and enhancers as allowed under other federal, state, and local laws. All right, and now we are moving on to some of the local initiatives.
So there are several local initiatives, but we are only going to discuss the ones that affect the whole county and Encinitas and Solana Beach. There are several that affect just Escondido that we're not going to, I think, have time to address. But again, you could submit any questions you have about those to the League of Women Voters website. So the first one that affects everyone in the county is Measure A. And Measure A would impose a cannabis business tax in the unincorporated areas of the county. So if we